Unlike the 2008-2009 campaign, there's not nearly as many teams in the playoff hunt this season. There is one race worth keeping an eye on, and that's Calgary and Detroit in the West. Rory, how do you see things playing out?
I think that our matchup earlier this week was a perfect example of why Calgary's not going to make the playoffs. A 2-1 Detroit win. Jimmy Howard's playing well. They're all healthy now, so they're sort of, they're coming together with that puck possession team game. Calgary puts 23 shots on net, manages 1 goal. They trade away Dion Phaneuf for some offensive depth. Matt Stajan gets 17 to 20 minutes a game, and he's not producing any more than he was in Toronto. At the beginning of the year, this team was built around defense, and that was the idea, to get them into the playoffs and push through. And now they just don't have enough offense. They're right near the bottom of the league, and you can't make the playoffs if you can't score any goals.
I don't think anybody expected Calgary to miss the playoffs, especially with the goaltending and defense they had. But what's really been the heart of the issue in Calgary this year?
Well, a lack of scoring, obviously. I mean, Jarome Iginla is one of the greatest snipers in the game for sure, but nobody can get him the puck. They've tried different guys over the years, and they've brought in, Craig Conroy. I think he got his second or third goal the other night. Olli Jokinen, that experiment didn't work. Nicholas Hagman hasn't produced as the 25, 27 goal scorer that you'd think he'd be. And as Rory said, Matt Stajan still playing well as he did in Toronto, but he's not a frontline player.
One guy who hasn't had a lot of trouble scoring this year, especially last night in Vancouver, is John Tavares. It's probably a case of a little too late for him in the Calder race. But who do you see as the front runner for Rookie of the Year?
It's really close. I like Matt Duchene because he's done it all year, and he's done it at both ends of the ice. He's really come on as a strong defensive player, and he's also sort of leading that young Colorado attack. Without him, they lose some goals. I'm not going to say they would miss the playoffs without Matt Duchene, but he's probably been the difference in a couple of wins, a couple of losses along the way, and he's given them a few more points. And he's been that big guy. He was their big draft pick last year, comes right up into the NHL, behind Hedman, behind Tavares in the draft talk last year. And, despite last year, he was coming on strong at the end of the OHL season and making a push for those guys. And now it looks like he's, he's been playing better than both of those guys all through the NHL season this year. So I like him, but then there's a lot of other candidates too.
Duchene's certainly been outstanding, but John, same question to you. Who's really been the freshman who stood out?
For me, it's Tyler Myers. I think, unlike Duchene, Rory, he's been doing it all year long, playing an offensive, big role offensively and also defensively, playing huge minutes, leading that team in ice time, and playing against the other team's best players as well. Duchene has played really well of late, but he had a big slump to start the year. And then, of course, there's Jimmy Howard is playing really well in Detroit. Tuukka Rask, I think, if he was the bona fide #1 guy in Boston, then he'd have a leg up on the competition as well. And then Tavares kind of bringing in the 4th, 5th spot there.
Well, there's certainly going to be some interest in both the playoff race and in the awards race down the stretch. And as it all plays out, you can find all the news and analysis on thehockeynews.com.